Lawmakers head into the regular legislative session just hours after the Easter holiday.
And as Sabrina Wilson reports, legislation to help homeowners be able to afford stronger roofs and bills to change the state's recall drive laws await lawmakers.
Even before the gavel sounds to kick off the regular session on Monday, there's plenty on the agenda, including insurance affordability.
There's one thing that we cannot pass a law against in our state is to keep hurricanes from coming to our state.
Lawmakers will be asked to allocate $20 million to fund the Louisiana Fortified Homes program.
I believe this program will help a lot of folks resist storm damage in the near future while potentially reducing residential property insurance costs for the entire state in the longer term.
Governor John Bel Edwards' final budget proposal calls for a $3,000 raise for public school teachers and $1,500 more for school support workers. Edwards also continues to push for a higher statewide minimum wage and is prepared to use his executive power to hike pay for state government workers to $10 an hour.
It's always a challenge to get any sort of wage concessions from this particular legislature. Because it is Republican controlled, and the Republicans now, of course, have 2/3 veto-proof majorities in both houses. So I think that's going to be an issue. However, there is currently a budget surplus, so the money is available.
State lawmakers will also discuss the state's recall laws. Of course, recently, New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell survived a recall drive against her, and now there's legislation to change the recall laws.
So I do expect several changes to be made.
State Senator Cameron Henry of Jefferson Parish has a bill to make recall petitions public record only after a parish registrar has certified the signatures on the petition. Right now, they're public record once the first signature is placed on them. And St. Tammany's State Representative Paul Hollis wants to lower the threshold for forcing recall elections. He thinks 20% of the number of voters who participated in the election during which the targeted official was elected should be required instead of 20% of all qualified voters. Dillard University political analyst Dr. Robert Collins.
But I don't expect radical changes because, again, elected officials don't want to leave themselves too exposed to their political enemies.
Governor Edwards, who is term limited, will give his annual State of the State address to state lawmakers at the start of the regular session on Monday. Lawmakers have from then until June 8th to pass a balanced budget for state government and wrap up work on the proposed legislation.